Here is a very simple heuristic on how you can filter out right-wing retards. I'm talking retards. I'm not talking grifters who know what they're doing, because they can flip narratives if they want. If you think that the Jews are the primary threat to Western civilization, and or you have a huge problem, you think that Nicki Minaj involved in politics is a huge problem, right-wing politics specifically, you need to retire. You need to go read some autistic 17th century books. You need to go fishing. You need to go taking bird photographs. You need to get involved in sports ball heavily. You need to focus all of your energy on guessing who will make the great play at the big game. That's what you got to do, because you don't understand what's going on. We are not getting a neo-Puritan TradCon paradise. You got to disabuse yourself of TradCon irredentism. It doesn't work. You are not, if you try to filter out anything that you perceive, probably correctly, by the way, perceive as on some level degenerate. I'm not even saying that assessment is wrong. It may well be right, and it often is a correct assessment. You're not going to get anywhere. You're going to lose. Our people will be extinguished because the left will obtain a one-party state, and they will continue the mass immigration, continue the systematic persecution of white people and Christians and men. This is not going to go away. We have to win at the top. And so everyone who's crashing out because Trump isn't launching our entire arsenal at Israel, because Trump has a good relationship with some black people, these things are not helpful. Putting these why didn't X and YZ get arrested within 5 minutes of an incident? Trump's betrayed us, this kind of stuff. You need to go fishing. You need to go read 17th century books. You need to talk about a specific type of rare Galapagos turtle. You need a hobby that you may be very good at. You need to focus your energy on anything other than politics, because you are wrong and you do not understand how things work. I'm not saying that Nicki Minaj being involved in politics is ideal, because it's not ideal. It's not ideal to have her involved in right-wing politics. Do I think that there is some merit to there being a problem with Jewish involvement in our civilization? Yeah, I do think that's a problem, and I think there's lots of evidence as to why that's a problem. But, again, if you think that they're the primary threat, and if you have a huge problem with Nicki Minaj being involved with MAGA or right-wing politics or whatever, you are conflating the ideal. I think I'm being bitten by an ant here. You're letting perfect become the enemy of good, and you're conflating the ideal with what is practically possible. Because what you want, even if it is ultimately what we should aim for in the very long run, that should perhaps be our end goal, that's not going to be accomplished by crashing out at any proximate victory. I should have mentioned this. I meant to mention this. Nicki Minaj will probably drive some of the black vote in the right direction, which will be a net positive for us. And also, I do hope that what she's doing will contribute to helping Nigerian Christians. That doesn't mean that we should be dumping aid to Nigeria. I'm not saying that. But the previous regime, Biden, and before that, Obama, and really Bill Clinton to an extent as well, their international policy has always resulted in the massacre or at least some kind of harm coming to Christians. This is a consistent pattern. I mean, Bill Clinton, what he did in the Balkans, that enabled Muslims against Serbian Christians and perhaps Croatian Christians. I don't know all the details. I know they don't get along with each other very well, but the point is still true. So yeah, there are ultimate goals that we do want to get to, but it's very, very unlikely that even if you are 20 years old or younger even, it's more likely than not that you will not live to see that goal fulfilled. You will not live to see an 18th century demographic of America. You're not going to live to see the majority of the nation becoming faithful Christians again. You're just not going to live to see those things, even if you are very young. It's very unlikely. I mean, if it does happen, praise God, but you're not going to live to see those things. So you have to put up with people who are not up to your standard. You just have to put up with them. And that includes people who are posting some things that I don't think they should be posting. You know, I don't think the Sydney Sweeney posting is the best thing. I think it's questionable, perhaps from a Christian perspective. That's not going to go away, and it does have a benefit to making people care about us, to care about their people. So, last thing that I'll say, and this is related to my previous point, the Sydney Sweeney thing. There was a point in our history, in Christian history, at least in the sphere that we are largely aware of, you know. Not all history is documented. There's plenty of undocumented history in regions. Medieval Christendom, there was a point in which, transitioning from late antiquity into the early Middle Ages, there was a point in which the majority of Christian leadership would be from a historic Protestant perspective, basically apostate. But we don't think that they were, like virtually none of them were saved. The truth, at a certain point, the truth about veneration, salvation by faith alone, you know, the proper orientation towards God, proper anthropology, these things, on some level, at some point, the majority of clergy and leadership were unfaithful to these biblical standards that we hold to. At a certain point, the vast majority of the population, even the clergy, it did not occur to them that what they were doing was wrong, that their mode of worship was idolatrous, that they had a mix-up of works and faith that was unbiblical, and certainly harmful. It's a harmful thing. It can harm you in real time. It has negative effects. But yeah, so I didn't mean to extend this video. I extended it more than I intended to, but you know, the point is, big things are happening with Trump. Trump is a patriot. He's demonstrated that. If he weren't a patriot, he has billions of dollars. He would have just run off to an island in the middle of nowhere full of beautiful women. Okay, he could do it if he wanted to. Instead, he's endured going on 12 years now of relentless lies, slander, multiple attempts to throw him in prison, multiple assassination attempts, which, you know, I do have a problem with this conspiratorialism that's disrupting us, but there are a lot of problems with the assassination attempts, especially the first one, where we got that great shot where he said, "Fight, fight, fight." There are problems with this not being properly addressed, because it hasn't been properly addressed to this day. But yeah, there's many parallels with Trump. There was some degree of political agreement between RFK1 and Nixon. RFK1 primaried LBJ. Biden, RFK Jr. primaried Biden. They had a similar-ish idea of Vietnamization, both RFK1 and Nixon, and there's this parallel. Forgive this kind of schizo tangent. I'm going to make a point, I promise. Grover Cleveland was a reform anti-corruption president. And he won 2 non-consecutive terms. And Trump did both those things. And I think those are... you don't have to appeal to mysticism. It's pretty obvious that we're making good progress here. You've just got to not believe the headlines and the podcasters who want to make money off of demoralizing you, because that's what gets clicks, okay? Negativity gets way more clicks, gets way more traffic. Stop listening to them. But yeah, there's not just rational reasons, there's mystical reasons too, to think that we will make it as a nation and that Trump is a patriot. So, calm down. We're going to make it. Pray for what you want to be accomplished. Pray for the for it to be accomplished faster. Pray for good counsel. Pray for protection for the Trump Vance's administration, the good people in there. Pray for bad counsel to be silenced. Pray for good counsel to be amplified. We want those things. Keep praying for those things. But if you engage in rhetoric, Trump is an ebook type of document. Trump has betrayed us. This rhetoric. If you are doing this, you are sinning against the entire nation. You need to stop. You need to get a hobby. Okay? Things are not perfect. Trump is not perfect, but he's the best we've got, and he's a gift from God. So please stop and just try to think clearly.